Welcome back to One Stop Law. Now, in this lecture, we will look into the third factor which vitiates free consent to a contract. We have already discussed about coercion and undue influence in our previous lectures. This one is dedicated to the third factor, which is fraud. Now, Section 17 of the Indian Contract Act provides for this third factor where consent is vitiated due to the presence of fraud. So the contract again becomes voidable at the option of the party whose consent is obtained by means of fraud. The section has given us the definition of fraud as also the various methods, the circumstances which is responsible under which fraud is committed. There are five situations to be specific. So the Indian Contract Act gives the definition of fraud under this section. It provides five specific circumstances under which fraud can be committed. We will look into them one by one. Now, before going into the section's definition, let us just quickly understand what fraud is in general terms. So generally, fraud means making a false representation of facts willfully with an intention to deceive other party. So that means fraud is nothing but making a false statement. But this statement is not made just like that. It is made to influence someone, to deceive him. So basically fraud means to cheat. Now when it is juxtaposed in our Indian Contract Act, if we look at section 17, you can see I have analyzed the definition part of fraud given under section 17 in way of a flowchart. So fraud under section 17 means it is an act of a party or his agent done with the intent to deceive another party or his agent to induce them to enter into a contract. So firstly, this is done intentionally. So if the intention is missing, if the false statement is made without any bad intention, then it is not fraud. So very important is making the false statement intentionally by a party, and then again it is not made just like that. It is made with the intention. Intentionally I make a false statement, then there is another added intention to it, that I make this false statement to induce the party in front of me, the person in front of me or his agent, to enter into a contract, okay, whereby he may end up in some unlawful loss or wrongful loss. Okay, so the false statement is made intentionally. Number one, I knew the statement is false, still I made it. And second, I made the false statement to influence the person in front of me to enter into a contract so that he ends up in loss. So this is basically the broader concept of fraud as defined under section 17. So now if we look at the exact wordings of the section, as you can see I have presented you section 17. The first paragraph gives you the definition. Fraud means and includes any of the following acts committed by a party to a contract or with his connivance or by his agent. So connivance means or with his consent, with his help. Okay, his agent does it with the intention to deceive another party, thereto, or his agent, or to induce him to enter into a contract. So main motive is to cheat, to deceive a person, and to make this person enter into a contract based on the false statement this person makes to him. Now there are five distinct methods by which this fraud can be done. You can see they are given in bullets in the section. I will deal with them one by one in my next slide. So the specific five ways by which a fraud is committed provided under section 17. The first is suggestion as to a fact of that which is not true by one who does not believe it to be true. So the condition is one makes a false statement, a statement, suggestion of a fact. So a person suggests a fact which is not true. So the fact is false. Okay. And it is not he makes this false statement unknowingly. The last part is very important, by one who does not believe it to be true. So I know the statement I am making, the fact I am stating is false. I know it by myself, but still I say it. So basically it means a false assertion is given by me without believing it to be true. So suppose I am saying that it's raining, but I know it's not raining. Okay, so I just gave you a blunt example. Now if you see, there was a case of Pig versus Gurney Okay, in this case, what happened that a company had issued a prospectus where it had intentionally not disclosed the liabilities of the company. Okay, because if that document of liabilities was disclosed in the prospectus, maybe the company would not have attracted that much capital, or that much shareholders would not have been attracted to the company if that document of liability was disclosed in the prospectus. So it was a clear case of fraud, because the company knew the documents I am showing in my prospectus is not true. Okay, completely not true, because the document of liabilities of the company was intentionally hidden. So this was a case of uh, clear case of fraud, because a statement was made. Prospectus is a statement on behalf of a company, and the statement made there was not completely true. It was uh, the it was false to the extent that the liability statement of the company was not disclosed. The second way of committing a fraud is active concealment of a fact by one having knowledge or belief of the fact. So see, the first case is what I am stating is a false fact. In the second way, I am stating a fact, but I am also concealing a fact, and the fact which I am concealing is very much important for a person to know to enter into a contract. So basically, active concealment. So here in this case, I am not stating what is true. Maybe I am not stating a false statement. I am not making a false statement, but I am concealing a fact. Okay. I know a fact which I am concealing to myself. This fact is important for the person in front of me to know, to make his decision whether to enter into this contract. So this fact, this kind of thing, I'm purposely hiding something, hiding the truth. So hiding truth, concealing truth is also fraud. So non-disclosure of material defects knowingly. So if there is, suppose I'm dealing with some articles, I'm intentionally uh, not disclosing the defects, the material defects in that article, this is fraud. You can see I have given an example. A furniture seller conceals the cracks in the furniture by polishing them to deceive the customer. So I sell furniture, and I intentionally, to hide the cracks in the furniture, because no one would like to buy a furniture where there are cracks. So I polish them so beautifully that the cracks are hidden. So this is active. I am not telling my customers that see my furniture is crack free, but what I have done, I have concealed them. So this is concealing truth, and this is also a way to commit fraud. You can see there is a case law given of Mrs. Shrimati Asha Qureshi versus Afaq Qureshi of 2002. Basically, in IPC, you have a if you have an offense of mock marriage, where a person undergoes the ceremonies of marriage knowing that these ceremonies are he is going is completely false and mock, but the other person with whom this person is getting married is not aware that these ceremonies are false. So here also mock marriage was held to be mock marriage is an offense under IPC, and it is also a way of committing fraud by way of concealing a fact. Okay, mock marriage means a false marriage. So hiding the truth that these are not true ceremonies with which a person is getting married, that is a case of active concealment. Third way of committing fraud is by making a promise without any intention to perform. So I make a promise to someone regarding entering into a contract, but I have no intention to perform it actually in reality. So when, suppose I enter into a contract with someone, say I will buy a certain thing from him, maybe I take the thing from him, but I don't afterwards do not pay him. So contracting without intending to pay the agreed consideration is a very good example of a promise made without any intention to perform. So suppose it may be, I gave you the example of buying something from someone without actually paying him the consideration. Second can be, I may have taken a contract, I am a supplier of building materials, so I may have taken a contract of supplying building materials to someone, to a promoter who is building his project, and on the very day of the I do not have any intention to perform it actually, so it is just to harass the promoter. He must be waiting for the building materials to come to him so that he can start his construction, and I do not actually supply the things. So this is also committing a fraud. Next is any other act fitted to deceive. So what do we mean by any other act fitted to deceive, this includes actually all those acts which may be used to trick or cheat someone by unfair means to cause wrongful loss to the one cheated or wrongful gain to the one cheating. So any other act which is not specifically which specifically does not fall in the first three categories which we just discussed, that is making a statement, false statement intentionally, or concealing truth, or making a promise without any intention to perform, any other act which is fitted to, which actually fitted to cheat someone, falls under the fourth category. Okay, so you can see example I have given is cheating by impersonation. So I may go to a shop, representing myself to be, say, a person, a relative of a very well known person, a celebrity, and then the shopkeeper might, with the name of that celebrity, with the name of that great person, might just give me certain articles. So there was a case, a woman went to a jewelry shop and impersonified himself to herself to be the wife of the mayor of the city, and the jeweler actually gave her so many jewelries. She left the shop and sold them to some other person. The jeweler waited because the women had told that the money will come by check from the mayor himself, which never came. So this was a clear case of fraud, cheating by impersonation. And the last is any such act or omission as the law specially declares to be fraudulent. So if there is any other law in the country which makes any transaction fraudulent, then that is also covered under this. So here I have given you the example of the Transfer of Property Act. Basically, Transfer of Property Act says that if a seller does not disclose the material defects of his of the property he is selling. Transfer of Property Act deals with the transaction of immovable property. So before, if the seller does not make those defects, discloses those defects to the vendee, and transfers the property, then what happens? The transaction becomes void or voidable at the option of the party who buys it. So fraudulent transfer means here, under the Transfer of Property Act, this transaction has been specifically declared to be fraudulent. Okay, so where a person, there was a case where A sold some property to B, stating that in the sell deed he would not be liable to B, the buyer, if he suffered from any loss owing to A's defective title. What A had done, A had earlier to this transaction sold his property to someone else, but he did not inform B about it. Under Transfer of Property Act itself, this transaction was fraudulent, and hence this contract will be void under Section 17 also. This is all about the various methods by which a fraud can be committed in a contract. This is all for this video. In the next lecture, we will try to look into the effect of silence on a contract, that whether silence amounts to fraud, because there is an added explanation given to Section 17 on effect of silence, and also we will look into the effects of fraud on a contract, like what is the consequence of fraud in a contract. Thank you. See you in the next lecture.